Love requires trust, mutual commitment, but you cannot trust someone who doesn't see you as a person deeply. And that's the definition of objectification, is seeing someone only in terms of their usefulness to me. And so dating goes from initially this awesome opportunity to meet and connect with other people and have fun along the way, to this terrible journey that I have to go through.
Let's face it, dating today feels harder than ever. And you're not alone. 47% of Americans say that dating today is harder than it was 10 years ago. I mean, we've got more options, we've got more access, we've got more information, but somehow we feel less connected. We're swiping, we're scrolling, we're making lists, we're checking boxes, and we're still wondering, why isn't this working? In a world that is so focused on self-fulfillment, personal growth, and dating can start to feel so transactional. It's less about partnership and it becomes more about performance. We've been told, just find the right person and then everything is going to be right. But what if the problem isn't who we're choosing? What if the problem is how we're approaching dating in the first place? Today, I'm sitting down with Sam Whitney. He's the author of How to Date Intentionally, End the Dating Game, and Find Lasting Love. So we're talking all about dating and how it has become so freaking complicated and what it looks like to shift away from more of a performance-based dating to something that is a little bit more present, a little bit more person-focused. So from fears to intention. I'm so excited for today's episode. If you're tired of the game and you're ready for something different, this episode is for you. Welcome back to Let's Talk Relationships, everybody. I'm so excited for my guest, Sam, today. Thanks for coming on, Sam.
Thanks for having me, B. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be such a great conversation. I just finished reading your book called How to Date Authentically, which I absolutely loved. And I'm not even saying this. I read a lot of books. And I saw so much of myself and my dating past and even friends of mine's like stories in your book. I think you brought so much great relevant examples, not just theory, that I think it made it so relatable. And I think it's so important for our society today because I really do feel like so many people are struggling with dating and they're struggling to find a partner and they're frustrated. And I don't know that we recognize that we're kind of in our own way in many ways. And so I think that's what your book really, really kind of highlighted, and I really appreciated it. And like I said, I found so much of myself in it. I found so much of like my past self in it. And so I'm just so excited to dive into the topics today. But before we get into all the nitty gritty of your book and everything that it entails, I want to learn a little bit more about you so my listeners can get to know you a little bit better, and also what drove you to write this book.
Sure. Thanks, B. So much for taking the time to read the book too. I mean, I wrote it. It's a short read, so
Yeah.
even if people don't like it, it's not too painful. But I'm really glad you enjoyed it. A bit about me. Look, I am sort of a student of mindset, philosophy, and psychology. It's the way I've structured my career. I currently head up the product development here at the Arbinger Institute, where we work a lot with mindset, human behavior, and organizational development. So some of my thinking was already in the realm of what's deep, what's driving us, what's guiding our behavior, what's getting us some results. And then I was always that guy my friends were coming to for relationship advice. Girls, guys, everyone wanted to hear from me, and I had no idea why. I just was someone who liked to listen, and I liked to give some advice, and people found it helpful. And there came a day after I had gotten married that I actually was sitting with a mentor of mine, and I told him the story of how I came to terms with the fact that I was actually getting in my own way in dating. And he looked at me at the end of that story, and I can share it later if you'd like, but he looked at me at the end of that story and said, that should be a book. And I went, oh, really? And he said, yeah. And he challenged me right there to write the book. And I thought nothing of it, but I went home that night and just thought, you know what? I'm going to put down an outline. Who knows? And like 20 or 30 pages came out of me in an hour and a half. Like I just wrote. And I had so much to think and say. It was really disorganized, but I thought, I've got the beginnings of a book here. I think this could be helpful. And so there I am. I wrote a book. Personally speaking, I've been married for 10 years. I've actually got 5 kids. I love kids. And so our youngest is 3 months old. So I'm right in the bliss of a little baby. It's really great. But anyway, that's a bit about me.
Yeah. Well, I want to tell you, I love the way you structured the book. because I find what you did is you really set up the scene for kind of the mindset that is in the way. That's the problem, right? You really set it up. You gave some really great examples, but then you also left us with, okay, but this is how you change that. And I often feel like sometimes when I read, and again, I read a lot of relationship books, I read psychology books, and sometimes I find they're a little disorganized. And so I just want to, I want to like honor you with that because I really feel like it was very well written, and
Thank
I was very engaged with it, you know? And so I really do implore people, if you love this episode today, get the book. It's on Audible. You can listen to it. I think I listened to it an hour and 40 minutes on high speed. But yeah, I just wanted to tell you that, like, amazing. I think when you have that calling in you and you like, you feel like you just have to unburden yourself with this what's in you, you know, and get it on paper. I just wanted to applaud you on that because I really do feel like it was very well written, very easy to understand, and very relatable. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So one thing you mentioned in your book is how we can't seem to fathom happiness outside of our expectations. And man, do our expectations often get in the way. So can you talk to me a little bit about how those expectations, especially the ones we don't even realize that we have, these are the underlying subconscious expectations that we operate our life under, right? You know, how can those expectations really sabotage our dating lives?
Oh, that's a great question, man. Yeah, we think about two levels of expectations we all have. We have things that we are conscious of, things we really want and we think about a lot, and other things that are unconscious. And the funny part is often these things are not aligned in the ways that we think they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We might be vocal about saying, "Hey, I want to get together with someone and find a partnership, or maybe a marriage, a long-term relationship," virtuous things that we project into the world. These are what I want. But under the surface, we actually want other things. And the trick is to get those things aligned, because when they're not aligned, they actually get in the way of us forming a connection and having a long-term partnership. For example, like I might say that I want to be with someone, and I might say, I don't really care a ton about how they look, and I really love and I value personality. But then suddenly I'm confronted with my friends who are asking for a picture of someone that I'm dating, and I'm frantic and I'm freaking out, and I'm trying to find the right picture, and I'm making sure that they approve of me. And suddenly I'm revealed in that moment that actually I do care a lot about the way someone looks, but not because I'm actually looking for someone I'm attracted to, because I'm actually really concerned with what other people think. And that sort of preconditions our radar. And when we're
Absolutely.
out in the world looking and we're thinking about and connecting with people, we don't really realize that the way we're seeing the world, those expectations that we're layering over our experience, are actually filtering out potentially great options for us because someone's not checking certain boxes that we may not even be aware that we have. And these things come from our family, our culture, movies, media. We kind of absorb them. There's a great quote in the book I quote where we become people by becoming one of them, right?
Yeah.
And so we take on so much to form our personality and ourselves, and then we sort of don't really question these crowdsourced expectations, and they really block us from forming connections with others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've become such visual human beings, right? We've got social
Oh, yeah, I
media,
love that.
right? Like
Mhm.
you've got, oh, the perfect couple on Instagram, the perfect picture. Oh, I need to make sure we go on vacations and everything becomes this outwardly view and we don't realize it. And that's why I resonated so much when you said that. And I'm like, I'm so guilty of this. I was like, how many times have I been like, so I met this new guy, and the first thing, no matter who, my parents, my mom, my friends, my family, my sisters, can I see a photo of him?
Yeah.
Immediately. It's not, does he love the Lord? Is he a good man?
Please listen to me. Yeah, all that stuff. Nope.
Is he emotionally mature? Like super important to me? All these qualities that I do value. um they asked for a photo initially, and that stuck with me in the book. I was like, you're so right. And then we've all been guilty of finding the photo that's better. I mean, let's be honest, like we
Oh,
have
yeah.
all been guilty of being like, oh well, oh, that's not a good photo of him. Oh well, why does he, and then you're like, why does he look like that? Why can't I find a good photo of this person that I really like?
Yeah.
And it's just so crazy. And I think um yeah, it's stuff that I think we don't even really realize is affecting our dating. And that's what's so crazy. It's like these underlying things, and then we're frustrated by all of it, right? And we don't even realize that that it is what is driving how we date and how we choose.
Totally. I love that.
Yeah.
I think that frustration, just to touch on that, is so interesting because it's like, why would we be frustrated? The only reason we're frustrated is because people are not living up to our expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dating goes from being an adventure of connection to this enterprise of manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, I got to find someone who fits all these expectations. And the expectations aren't aligned with what I actually want. They're more aligned with me validating myself in the eyes of other people. I want to make sure that people think well of me and I get what I want, which is like such a tall order, right? And how in the world can I find someone to measure up to what I want and what everyone I've ever met wants and needs from me? It's like, it's really dangerous. I don't mean to harp too much on that, but it's so, what
No.
you said, that word frustration, it's so interesting.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I think what I loved in the book too, you talk about this being right versus being happy. And we hear that a lot. I've actually heard this quote a lot. I've heard this notion quite a bit. But, when it comes to dating, you're right. We are so focused on this being right, the right person, the right time, the right checklist, all those things. But how is this notion, one, describe what it is. I don't think everybody really understands what I mean when I say we're trying to be right all the time. But how is that holding us back also? So, we've got these expectations that's holding us back in one way, right? These underlying subconscious expectations. And on the other hand, we're also living under this notion that we have to be right in all these areas, right? So, yeah, explain that a little bit more if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I'll kind of introduce the idea and then we'll talk about why it gets in the way. It's
Yeah.
so detrimental to our dating success. Dating to be right is juxtaposed against dating to be happy. And dating to be right is a place where actually I'm dating so that someone else can join my story,
Mm,
my life. The other person goes from being a person to actually being more like an object, a thing that I can collect and put into my life, put on the wall a little bit and say, look, I've got a partner now.
mm-hmm.
And this means that I'm a better person or I'm more complete in some way. And that being right, what I mean by that is that I'm actually winning sort of a social competition against other people.
Mm,
My life and the way that I'm living it is in comparison to others. And so
yeah.
I use other people to accomplish that goal. And when I do that, I dehumanize people unconsciously. I don't realize that I'm actually turning them into objects. And the reason why that's so detrimental, B, is because we can sense deeply how other people see and think about us. We know how people regard us. Like if you
Absolutely.
think about the people in your life who really love you truly, you know exactly who those people are.
Mm-hmm.
And you know other people who just tolerate you. And you know other people who have a crush on you, haven't said something. And you know other people who are annoyed by you but haven't said something. And you get a sense for how people see you because they reveal themselves to you in the way they see you, and you can feel it. And so when we go about dating, seeing others as objects and trying to manipulate them to join us on our quest for personal validation, well, that's a recipe for someone not really wanting to fall in love with us, right? Because love requires trust, mutual commitment. It requires communication, but you cannot trust someone who doesn't see you as a person deeply. And you can sense that they don't. And so what ends up happening to people who are dating in the world of right, and I have been there and still am there. I'm married in the world of right sometimes. I mean, it doesn't stop when you find someone,
Yeah.
but it's like, what I find is that people who are dating in the world of right end up alienating the very people they're trying to attract.
Yeah.
It's this sick kind of irony, right? Like, I'm trying my best. I'm engaged in dating. I'm doing all I can, and no one seems to like me. And the people I want won't like me. The people I don't like are paying me attention, and I feel stuck ultimately. And so dating goes from initially this awesome opportunity to meet and connect with other people and have fun along the way to this terrible journey that I have to go through
Mm-hmm.
where I'm disappointed, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm resentful, I can't handle it, I'm burned out. And all because the people in my life are actually violating my expectations at all times because of how I'm seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the solution, of course, the trick is to transition to the world of happy where I become deeply interested in other people for their own sake, right? I'm not interested in them because of how they can form part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in them because they're people.
Yeah.
And that deep regard and interest is the most attractive thing you can do. Like, period. Like, you love when you meet someone who really sees you and listens to you.
Absolutely.
You just feel
You
drawn to
feel
them.
it. Yeah.
You know it. And so we can go into that a little bit more, but I hope that kind of answers your question. I'd love to get your thoughts, though.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's funny because I'm sure I've also been on the one side, but I've been on the receiving end of that on kind of multiple occasions where I feel like there's a connection. I'm curious if you see this too, but there's a connection when you are making it about your own validation, right? So if this person likes me, if I get this person to like me, then I am validated. That means I'm worth something. That means I'm worth being loved, right? And I
Right.
find there's a connection between that and speed. I tend to see when that is the case and I'm trying to validate me, which I think maybe you mentioned in your book and I'm not remembering, but there's a connection with speed. And I find that for me, men, because obviously on this receiving end, I find that when that's the case, men want to move real quick. They're like not really listening to you. You could be like, hey, yeah, I kind of want to take this slow. Like, I just kind of want to get to know you. And they're like, cool, but no, I'm just speeding on ahead. I'm not disregarding everything you were saying. I'm disregarding your desires and what you want and your speed and all of that. And I've noticed that tends to be a bit of a pattern in with the two is there some like, and I think maybe it's a little bit of the anxiety that comes out also. Like, I have to get this person to like me because this is going to give me the validation that I've always wanted.
Right. You're 100% right, B. I love that connection between needing to be right and speed. We talk about the difference in the book between forward and straightforward.
Yes.
When someone is forward, they're rushing the timeline. And it's partially because, yeah, I finally located someone
Mhm.
who's going to win for me the validation I've been so craving.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I got to make sure I lock them down before they figure it out.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if I can lock them down, get them into a relationship with me, I can feel validated. I want that so badly.
Mhm.
And so if dating is a search for validation, there you go. We're rushing into relationships and
Absolutely.
you, B, feel alienated by that.
Mhm.
You feel put off.
It's
You
it's
can sense something's wrong,
Yeah, it's
right?
it's
Yeah.
it's hollow. Like, it feels
Mm.
hollow. It feels like, wait, I could kind of be anybody. Like, anybody that kind of fits your whatever
Yeah,
this
you feel
view is.
objectified.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and it's like, and it took me a while to realize that, in it I'm like, something feels off here and I don't know what it is. But it's like, I don't like this feeling. I don't like you actually, and I don't want to be in this relationship with you actually, because it feels inauthentic and it feels hollow, because it's like, it's almost like when someone is looking past you, right? They see you, but they're just looking way past you. They're not really seeing you. And yeah, it's very off-putting, on the receiving end. And I'm sure, look, I'm going to be vulnerable and honest here. Like, I think the part that struck me the most, that I think I felt, ooh, a little bit of a dagger, is,
An indictment, maybe.
yeah, like, is the look of like, how is this person going to look on me? How is this person going to reflect on me? Okay, if I introduce this, like, I might like this person, right? But then I'm like, is this the type of person I want to be with? Like, what is that going to look on me? Like, what are people going to think? Are they going to be like, wow, she's been single for so long and this is the guy she ends up with? Like, you start
Yes,
to,
I love that.
and it's like, it's these thoughts come, and I've caught myself like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I've had to like regulate myself and being like, what are these thoughts? Like, who cares at the end of the day what all these people think? But it's, if we're honest, I think we all, like, that comes up.
It does. It comes up so powerfully, and it comes up at a surprising moment when you think
Yeah.
everything's okay. Suddenly it rises, and it's so funny though, because if you were to switch it and think, how would I feel if the other person thought that about me?
Yeah.
Like, no way. Like,
Horrible.
I'm Sam. Like, I'm amazing. I'm incredible.
Exactly.
You don't even know what you're missing. What are you talking about? Like, no one thinks of themselves as the person being settled for, ever.
No.
Everyone thinks of themselves as the prize.
Yeah.
And so when we actually see other people as people, we recognize the fact that they have their own inner world.
Mhm.
The idea of someone looking good on me or trying to fulfill some
Mhm.
expectation of other people is like, no, 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 I'm not interested in that anymore. I'm actually interested in this
Mhm.
connection. And what does that mean? And because to win the dating game is actually to find the best possible connection,
Yeah.
not the best possible person.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, if we can get to that place, all that anxiety, resentment, challenge fades away.
Yeah.
Because dating becomes exciting. Like, I'm so excited to get to know another human being.
Yeah.
And how awesome is that?
It's so beautiful and becomes less frustrating, but I think we get so stuck on the story, right? So along with that, right? It's like, oh, what is this person going to look on, or how's this person going to reflect on me? It's because we've built a story in our mind of what we think our partner should be or what our future should be. And the story is often related, again, to self-fulfillment.
It is 100%. That story piece is so interesting. We use a metaphor in the book of dating becomes basically a casting call. Like, I've written the script, I've rented the theater, the audience is coming, and I need
Yeah,
to find a love interest for the protagonist, who's me. And
absolutely.
so, like, we're writing them in. And the really dangerous part about that is that what happens when the person shows up for the audition and realize they're being auditioned, number one? Maybe you get past that part. But then you get into a relationship and suddenly the person goes off script.
Yeah.
What happens when they when they fall down on stage and the audience laughs and you're like, oh no. Like, it's funny because when we need to be right, when that story gets violated, in our mind, that's grounds for termination of the relationship.
Mhm.
And that's actually nuts because there's a difference between real deal breakers and false deal breakers and the counterfeit kind. The real kind are like, I can't trust you.
Mhm.
We don't communicate well. You're abusive. You don't respect my boundaries. Like we can go all the way down the line to the deal breakers. But in the world of right, it's things like you play video games on the weekend,
Mhm.
or you don't like this movie that I like, or you said a bad joke in front of my friends. It's like lots of superficial crap that we think from the world of right is grounds for termination. And so not only do we have a hard time starting relationships, we're very quick to end them
Mhm.
on superficial terms. And that, again, just keeps us back from taking the time to really form a connection
Yeah.
while we're hoping, well, because if we see people in this sort of transactional way, you and I were talking before about this transactional way, it's like I can just return them to the store.
Mhm.
I can just get the next audition. I can just, but that's not how life works.
No. And I think our society has set us up to be so transactional.
Yeah.
Like you look at our apps and genuinely I think this is why people are so frustrated with the apps also, because it feels inauthentic. And not to say that they're wrong, right? You can meet people on apps. I have no qualms with that. But I think it sets you up in this mindset that there's a plethora of options, that there's always someone out there better potentially that will make you look better, feel better. And again, because it's all self-focused, right? We've become this culture of self. And not only in dating, we've become this culture of self in every aspect of our lives. So it's not surprising that our dating world has become what it has become because our society has become what it has become. And it has become very self-focused and very, how do I fulfill my needs? How do I fulfill everything for me? And I do believe that when we start dating and we go on these dates, we don't spend a lot of time listening. We don't spend a lot of time really trying to get to know who is this person, right? We're on this date thinking still, how is this person going to fulfill the things that I want? How and like what did you call it? The not list or the nope list?
Nope list. Yep. A nope. I'm going to cancel this. Yep.
Yeah, because I think that that's what we do. We have these and I think some of them are subconscious, some of them are conscious, right? This list of things that they don't fulfill, they don't have these things. So, but then we aren't looking at the things that are more meaningful and deep, right? Are they honest people? Do they have integrity? Do we share the same values? All those things. We get so stuck on these transactional, self-centered things that we lose sight of people. Exactly like you said. Like we do it, but we do it. What's crazy is what I'm seeing is we do this in friendships also. Like
Mm.
I live in Los Angeles and I've come to find that all relationships seem very transactional and friendships more so as well. And so it's just interesting to see this dynamic also play out in building community and building friendships.
Wow. That's a really intriguing thing to say because, yeah, friendships have become more transactional. And the minute you're no longer supporting my individual journey, you're no longer useful. So therefore you're gone.
Yeah.
And that's the definition of objectification, is seeing someone only in terms of their usefulness to me. And that is not a good ground for relationships. Something you said reminded me that I think at the core of all of this, even going beneath the self-focus, is a desire to sort of abdicate my personal responsibility in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
To say, look, our culture has decided that it's going to spurn against roles that people play in relationships. And in some ways, this is positive, right? There's some roles that are antiquated, maybe some things that they're held on to that are not beneficial
Mm-hmm.
for both parties. But in each relationship, it's a bilateral agreement between two people to
Yeah.
support the other person. And so I have duties in my friendships. You have duties in your friendships. I have things that I need to do in my marriage. My wife has things that she does in her marriage as part of a good connection.
Mm-hmm.
When we're dating to be right, however, we're essentially saying, oh no, it's not my responsibility to bring love into my life. It's not my responsibility to commit. It's not my responsibility to even fall in love.
Mm-hmm.
It's your responsibility. By virtue of your looks, your accomplishments, your background, your humor, whatever part of you that I'm interested in, you're supposed to come into my life and force me to commit, force me to fall in love, force me to form a relationship with you, and then stay with that. And that's absolutely bonkers, but it's actually not too crazy when you think about all the movies we see.
Yeah.
In every single romantic film that I've seen, you have a person who's inherently resistant to another person. The other person shows some part of themselves that's good and maybe more attractive or better. And then the protagonist in that film is overcome by
Yeah.
love, this mystical force in the universe that comes, Cupid comes and shoots them with an arrow, metaphorically, and they fall. And therefore they get in. And we kind of want that to happen.
Well, of course.
Going back to that
Oh,
idea of the story, like,
yeah, I've been stuck on that too. Absolutely.
yeah, we want the story to play out in this way. And we want love to come into our life. And I think at the core of all of it is this: I'm not going to be responsible for this. I'm not going to put my heart on the line. I'm not going to take the leap of faith required to actually move into the future with you and fuse our lives together. Because what we're doing in dating is looking for someone not to complement our existing lifestyle and help us move into the next stage. We're actually looking for another person to partner with us in life. And that's a much deeper thing. But as long as we're living our lives without the desire to actually take responsibility for them, we're always going to be superficial. We're always going to
Absolutely.
be at the surface. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I think about what you just said, it's like I see either a little girl or a little boy who wants the validation, right? They want to feel like a person is going to come into their life and be the reason why they're willing to commit, or be the reason why I'm willing to commit, and change this whole perspective because I am so special to this person that now, that's what it's taking. And that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for someone to recognize how special and amazing I am so that they can change their willingness to commit and change my willingness to commit. Right. And
right.
again, it still becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy of I still am waiting for that love story to validate me.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. I love that. You're taking it back to the validation piece. That's exactly right. That's why I say the need to be right. Like, I'm right. The choices I make, the thoughts I have, the person I've developed, that's right. I don't have to change anything about it. I'm correct. Y'all are wrong. Get used to it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Gosh, and I think this is the misconception we have, is that we're going to meet the right person and suddenly everything's going to change.
Right.
And I would love to believe that. I have probably held on to that for most of my life, and I'm annoyed that is probably not true. Like,
Yeah.
if
The perfect universe, like, come on.
really, I'm like, I would love for it to be true, but what's the alternative? Because I think we hear that a lot, right? That it's not real, that the right person will suddenly make you want to commit and suddenly make everything better, and suddenly, all your, essentially come and rescue you from the life that you have, or rescue you from, dating failures and relationship failures, and rescue you from a life that maybe you aren't that excited about, right? Maybe you're like, yeah, my life's okay, but it's so much better with the right person in it, right? So this person's going to come in and rescue you. But what is the healthier approach when it comes to that? Like, if it's not okay, this right person coming along, right? Because I still believe there is right people for you, right? We're looking at qualities and all that, but I guess what's the healthier approach if that's not it?
That's a really good question. It's interesting, before, perhaps I'm going to preface what I'm going to say here, because when we're in the world of right, any alternative to the world of right feels like defeat, feels like settling. And settling is the four-letter word of the dating the world of right. How dare you? I'm not going to be the kind of person who settles. No, not me. I had a friend recently. She's in her early 40s now and chronically single and very frustrated with dating and always talks to me. And she said, Sam, look, I was talking to her about the book, and she's like, look, I would rather be alone than be disappointed by someone else. And I was like, whoa, like, that's a huge moment of revelation for me about her state of mind. And so as I talk about this alternative, it's tempting to go, yeah, he's just talking about settling. He's just trying to get me to take my eye off the prize, and then someone else is going to go take it, and I'm going to lose, right? It's like, nope. What I'm talking about here, the alternative we call the world of happy, which is actually changing fundamentally the goal that you have in dating and changing the way you see people across the board. This isn't just in dating. It's at home. It's at work. It's everywhere. It's seeing people as people with their own unique challenges, their own hopes, their own dreams, their own inner life. Every person you meet desperately wants to be loved, desperately wants to be validated, desperately wants to find connection. And to date with that reality in mind, it's essentially shredding up the story. I mean, look, I'm not going to come to this with something pre-written. We're actually going to write this together. So every interaction comes with a blank Word document, and we're going to sit there and collaborate on writing this story together and seeing how that goes. We're open to being surprised
Mm-hmm.
by relinquishing our expectations and our need to be validated through those expectations and their fulfillment. By seeing other people as people, we suddenly get to this place where dating becomes a lot more enjoyable. It's not full of anxious and terrible emotions. It's just like, hey, I'm going on a date, super excited to get to know another human being. I really hope we get to have a connection. And if not, great. I'll find someone else to connect with, right? That's great.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's just completely different. And we can talk a little bit more. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, but we can talk a little bit more how you get there because I
Yeah.
try to be in the book more practical
Mm-hmm.
about it. But um, that's the alternative, the
Yeah.
world of happy, right?
Well, and I think that's so so interesting because yeah, I feel like when you say settling, like everyone's like, right, you get this little angst, this thought
Yeah.
of that. And but I think there's a connection there with yeah, not wanting to have defeat, right? Not wanting to feel defeated. But I think even beneath that is not wanting pain, not wanting hurt, not wanting to be rejected.
Right.
And I find that the underlying is I don't wanna go through that. I don't wanna give any part of me anymore. I don't wanna open up. I don't wanna do any of that because I don't wanna feel pain. So until the right person comes along, I just don't wanna go there. So anything else other than the right person is settling because I'm gonna try and mitigate as much pain, as much hurt as I possibly can mitigate. And because of that, I'm just gonna go and look out for myself. So I think there's a big part of the self culture has also been a product of our culture of a lot of
True.
pain and hurt and how the dating world is kind of sucks sometimes, right? You get ghosted, people are horrible at communicating, no one is very direct with how they're feeling or what they want or, or they're direct and people don't listen and they paint other pictures about what they want to say. And so it's just interesting because I see that. I see, what is this thing with settling? Like, why are we so adverse to this, or what does it really mean for us? And so I don't know. I don't know if you see that, but I sense this like, it's just there's more there than the defeat is like, I'm also trying to mitigate risk.
Yeah, of course. And look, those are some super valid concerns. People have awful experiences in dating and
Hmm.
they've been hurt. And it's like, I don't want to get hurt again. Part of that is thinking, look, when we transition to the world of happy, we're no longer tied to the outcomes quite as much. Like when someone rejects us, it's not seen as, hey, you just canceled all my plans for my future. How dare you? How much emotional pain comes from blaming and accusing the person who just rejected us
Absolutely.
of not seeing and loving us the way we thought we should be seen and loved? Instead, it's like, hey, you're a person. You have your own life to live. You have your own story you're living. And obviously, it doesn't feel like it's right for you. Great. Rejection becomes not a tragedy, but a filter at that point.
Absolutely.
And so this is one example of how the emotional impact of our dating experiences changes when our goals change. This image in my mind is coming to mind. If you've ever ridden on a hydrofoil ferry before, it's a boat that gets above the water and it actually coasts on top of the water with just this very small fin. It looks really cool and they go very fast. And I've been on one before and you go on top of the water. And because you're on top of the water, the choppiness of the waves stops. There's no seasickness on a hydrofoil ferry because you're not going up and down and up and
Interesting.
down and up and down. You're just shooting right across the water. And I think when you get to this place of really seeing people and dating with this goal of connection rather than validation, you're sort of getting up on top of the water and moving a lot faster. And so, you end up becoming someone who becomes really straightforward and curious about other people. And therefore you're kind of filtering people out of your life and it's not hurting you quite as much as it did before, where you're on those waves going up and down with every single interaction. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm above all that. I'm moving forward. And you're moving a lot faster toward your goal,
Mhm.
which is that long-term connection, rather than being at the mercy of the tides and the wind pushing you in every direction. Anyway, just sort of a metaphor to think about.
No, I think that's actually something I work with my clients. Like I'm like I want to get them to a point where you're going out there dating and you're not hurt in deep despair after 2 dates.
Yeah,
You're not hurt
exactly.
in deep despair if someone honestly tells you, "Yeah, I just don't think we're aligned." Okay. Like, thank you. You're grateful that you're not wasting more time or you're grateful that you got to know somebody and you realized it wasn't it. And it's funny, I was talking to a friend maybe like 2 weeks ago And he had a really good point. This is how he depicted it. He's like, I wish dating could be more like this. It's like you're going into a bookstore, right? And he's like, our dating today is like, we're trying to analyze the entirety of the book by the cover. Do I want to read it? How long do I want to read it for? Is it going to be a good book? How is it going to end? We haven't even opened the book. We're just like, no, before we've even gotten into it. And I feel like that's how we date today. We're in a bookstore and we're just like, no, no, no. Kind of looks interesting. Nope. We've not touched it, opened it, nothing. We don't know anything about the contents of the interior of the book. And he's like, I want to flip the pages. I want to just kind of get I might want to read a page. I want to kind of see what this book's about a little bit before I date them. Before I say, oh, I want to go, I want to and it just had me really thinking, I'm like, how do we date that way? Where we're not, there's this little interim part, right? Where you're not really dating, but you're just genuinely getting to know people. And I find that there's an adversity to that because I think with men too, they always feel like, well, then I'm going to get put in the friend zone. Well, and I don't want to do, and then women are like, well, then he's not being intentional if he doesn't pursue me or date me. But I'm like, okay, but how can we challenge this mindset? I'm like, how would it look if we did have this time in between? We meet somebody and then we date them. But now there's a couple of moments in the middle where it's really just about flipping the pages of the book. Can we see if there's anything interesting worth pursuing a date on, worth going out and planning all these dates and doing all these things?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love the idea of like actually opening the book before you decide, not just judging it by the cover, not just reading the back and hoping it's good, not just going online and checking reviews, right?
Yep.
Like it's a much more meaningful way to go about it. I have a suggestion for that, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
In terms of kind of practically approaching that. I called it my 3-date rule. And it's this. The first part of it is you have to reserve any physical contact until after the 3rd date. You got to stop yourself from getting the chemicals involved, physicality involved first, because that can also throw you off a little bit. Not that that's bad. You just got to give it its proper place.
Yeah.
And then what you do is you do 3 dates. The first date can only be under an hour. It has to be 60 minutes maximum. Go out for coffee, go for a quick walk. Doesn't matter. 60 minutes. And the first part of that first date is all about listening. You get super curious about the other person. You may even want to tell them, look, I love asking questions. I'm going to ask you a ton of questions about you. I want to get to know you. And you get to ask questions about me. And you just learn. And what you're looking for is, do we talk well? Do we communicate well? Are we able to connect? And are we able to sort of just at least get along a little bit? Do I like being around you? Great. If that's true, if you're like, you know what? I feel like I want to see that person again. Go to date 2. Date 2 is 90 minutes. Has to be 90 minutes at least. And this time you're going out to do something you both enjoy. Maybe it's out for a meal. Maybe it's out to go mini golfing. Some sort of fun, innocent thing you do together where you're not just sitting talking, you're actually doing something. And then your 3rd date, if you like them and you're feeling good about it, go to the 3rd date. And this time you're trying to solve a problem together. Go to an escape room, go rock climbing, go on a long hike, depend on each other in some way. Get to know each other a little bit more. By this point, you're kind of forming a friendship.
Yeah.
But stay in it to the 3rd date, even if you're like, I'm not really quite sure, but I think I want to see them again. At the end of the 3rd date, you come back and do a little reflecting and think, okay, if I like this person, I have to tell them. If I don't, I have to stop. That's it. Like from here, I'm going to just put a boundary up and say, no, you know what? We've gone out a few times and I'm not feeling like I want to pursue this. So I'm going to let you go. I'm sorry. Or if it's like, hey, we've been going out 3 times and I really enjoy spending time with you. I'd like to go out again, but you got to know if we do that actually, I actually am interested in you, and let them know that, and then take that next step. Right?
Yeah.
I think it doesn't have to look like that. But what I think is that if you can put some sort of structure around it and kind of force yourself to live inside of a bit of a structure and a system, then you can systematically work your way through dating in a way that, preserves your feelings because, I got 3 dates. I don't have to throw my heart into the ocean yet.
100%. Like we don't got to divulge all the deepest things about ourselves and
yet.
And I feel like sometimes we do that. We go on these dates and they're like not fun interviews, or we're like, okay, so do you want kids? Where do you see yourself living? And it's like, okay, that may come up in conversation, but I think it's like pull back a little bit. Don't put your whole heart on the line at that point. Don't close off, but be friendly, be open. I had a guest in the past tell me he's a dating coach, and he's like, I want the energy on the first date to be like you just met them on an airplane and they're sitting next to you and you're just having casual, like, cool, I just want to get to know you.
Love that.
I know, just more light, more airy, more enjoyable, Because I think something you mentioned at the end of your book was like, fun being a really important aspect of a relationship. And it's like, gauge that at the beginning. Like, do you have fun with this person? Can you enjoy yourself with this person? Right before you get super deep? Because I think what happens, and this is something I'm noticing more and more is to be true, is the more you get deep early on, you share deep wounds, maybe traumatic things that happened in your past, deeper parts of your heart, you create a false sense of connection.
Yeah, you do.
You do. And then come 4 dates, maybe they realize, ooh, like I'm not feeling it with this person. There's something not there. There's not a connection. And then you break it off. Now you're like you're in despair because you're like, I just poured out my heart to this person. I opened up so much, so deeply. And now I'm just devastated by this.
Yeah.
So I caution that early on. I'm like, dating should be fun. I don't know why we think it's not supposed to be fun. Like, it should be fun, enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like, go do something you've never done before. I don't know, like something enjoyable together, right? Maybe like you said, like
Yeah.
on the second or third date. But I think getting too deep too early I caution that to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a really good caution to give people. And I try to help people understand that like that impulse to go deep early is often a manipulative impulse.
Mm-hmm.
It's an attempt to like, I'm gonna it's another version of being forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like instead of telling someone you like them, it's telling them your whole story too early in hopes that you can get your hooks into them and grab them and pull them into your emotional world. And it's like, now you can't leave because I've told you the things. It's like, well, that's not fair. And it's not fair to the other person. That's kind of the essence of this dating with the idea of being happy is like they're a person. So think through, what would that mean if I were them? Like, is that fair? Is that helpful? Am I being kind? Am I being helpful to that person? If not, then it's like maybe second guess that impulse. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the flip side of the being right to the being happy is actually so much other focused, right? It's how do I actually focus on other because I am secure in myself. I'm
Mhm.
good, right? So we also have to get to that point where it's like I think if you're listening to this and you're starting to realize, oh wait, I am finding a lot of validation through others, through dating, through the people that I'm seeing. I would really take some time and get curious as to why. Where is that coming from? Why do I need this validation? What about me do I not love? What about me do I feel isn't lovable, right? Do I feel like I'm not enough? Do I feel like I'm not a good enough person? Or like take time to understand that because I feel like until you really get to that point within yourself, where you can feel secure, I think dating will always be a challenge because we will try and find validation, even subconsciously, even though we don't want to, right? So I would caution that before you even go back into the dating world and meeting people, is I think there's a level of having confidence within yourself. And this isn't a cocky thing. This is just a thing of like, I am worthy of being loved. I am worthy. Like, I am a good person versus I need someone else to validate me being a good person or me being worthy of something. So I think that is like first and foremost, I think super important in order for you to be able to allow someone to love you and not burden someone with this need that you need from them, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's really, really well said. And that's why the work you're doing, B, is so awesome because you're a coach, you're helping people and giving them that space to actually get to a place where they can feel that confidence. Because it's not cockiness, it's confidence. And it's actually a willingness to acknowledge the truth
Yes.
that you are valuable and you are worthy and and other people feel just like you do. There's this great idea within psychology, and it kind of bleeds over into what's called instructional design, which is where you build workshops, training, and educational things.
Mhm.
And the idea is you cannot listen and read at the same time. And so when we build slides, when we build things, we say, don't put any text on the slide if you're going to talk through it, because no one can read and hear what you're saying at the same time.
Mm.
Your brain, regardless of how fast it is at switching tasks, needs to occupy the main stage at one point
Mhm.
with one thing at a time, essentially. And so this goes for when we're dating. When we're really caught up in our own head, worried, anxious, seeking validation, we cannot let someone else in
Mhm.
because we're not actually physically capable of it.
Mhm.
We're consumed here. But I think the inverse is true too. When we're really focused in a genuine way on other people, this part of us quiets down
Mhm.
because we can't hear the inner track running when we're really listening to this one.
Mhm.
And that ends up being a bit of an antidote to that need for validation. If we can get people connected to others and really listening and interested in other people, a lot of that inner turmoil starts to die down, and the whole experience becomes so much easier and so much better.
Yeah, it's you release a lot of the yeah, just the angst and the anguish that we have in dating.
Yeah,
And it's like you said, it does become enjoyable. It's the happy that you talk about.
right.
So in saying that, we touched about this earlier, but how do we actually really take responsibility for our dating lives? And how do we take responsibility for changing how we approach this in terms of being happy over being right?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The first step is to recognize the fact that you actually are responsible for it, that your dating troubles are in part a function of the things you've experienced, but they're also a part of the choices you're making in the moment. So dating to be right isn't a default state you're in because of difficult experiences in your past or your subconscious. Parts of those things are playing into who you are now, but what you're doing is actually your decision. Dating to be right is manipulation of other people in the name of my own validation, and that is fundamentally wrong. And so that's a sobering thought. You got to go, shoot, I'm the one who's actually doing this. But at the same time, that's a really triumphant thought because I'm at the heart of the problem. It also means I'm at the heart of the solution. I got my hand on the lever and I can pull that switch if I want to. And I do that by recognizing the fact that I actually am responsible. That's step one. Step two is then to garner and develop a genuine interest in other people. And in the book, we go through kind of two fundamental steps to get there. The first is to take time to meditate. It sounds kind of silly, but to meditate on the fact that people are real. And it seems like that's obvious. People are real. But it's like, have you really taken time to sit down and contemplate the fact that you have a full life full of all sorts of things? You have work and school and home. You have all these relationships. You have all these responsibilities. You have all these things you want to accomplish, these hopes, these dreams, these fears. You have this huge, technically the entire universe fits inside your brain, right? Like you have all of it in there. And it's like, and then think about another person. They have exactly the same size universe as you do. They've got so much going on. You've got so much in common with everyone around you. They all have experience. They all wake up every morning. They all put their pants on. They all have lunch. Everyone has dreams, hopes, relationships. I mean, in the book, we go through an exercise of how to do that and think it through. That first bit generates an enormous curiosity because we realize there is a ton of stuff we don't know about other people and we never, ever find out because we actually don't think of people as people.
Yeah.
Think of them as objects. And so by first and foremost getting really interested in others for their own sake, that sort of starts to unlock, and we start to realize, oh, I'm a part of this relationship with another person. And when we take part in that, that's when that responsibility kicks on.
Yeah.
And we go, oh, my actions have an impact in the reality of another person's life. Shoot, I better think twice before I end up doing something. And that starts to give us that responsibility. And then we move towards curiosity, where we really start to learn about other people. In the back of the book, you can see, you can even visit the website, writerhappybook.com. I've got the free download of a questions guide. But you can go through the questions guide, and it'll help you to get really curious about other people and learn to be a better listener. And when we open ourselves up to that listening, again, we're taking in real information, and that information starts to inform our behavior. And then we end up changing the way we go about things. So to sum up, I think that responsibility turns on naturally when we really become interested in others.
Absolutely. Gosh, and I'm going to say it again. I've said this so many times on all of my episodes, is that you do not have to be dating to practice this.
Yeah.
You do not have to be in a relationship to practice this. And I say it so much because I think there's so much value in practicing this in every relationship that we have. I mean, imagine sit down and really think, what would it look like if I was more curious with my family? What if I was more curious with my mom? What if I got to know her a little bit better? What if I asked different questions with my dad, with my with my sisters? What if I was more curious about their experience and less curious about, consumed with my experience growing up? What about theirs? Same with my friends. How can this is something I've tried to become more and more aware of. Because my instinct is I want to jump in and share my thing with them. Oh, I want to share. I relate to that. And it's such an instinct with me that I'm like, oh, I really have to quiet that down, right? and learn to be curious about people, because it really changes the game. Like, it really changes the game. So I think that is such good advice. And I really advocate for that in all relationships, right? Not just romantic. And I think there's so much practice you can do within your friendships to make you a better partner and to make you a better dater in the dating pool. People ask, well, how do I get better? Well, yeah, try getting curious with your friends. Try envisioning your friends as a person and less of, because I mean, like we said, friendships tend to be transactional in where I'm at, and I'm sure around the world as well. But I get a
Oh yeah.
big sense of that here. And imagine if that was flipped, and then imagine how that would then change how we date and how we relate to people. So I think there's so much power in us taking responsibility not only for our dating lives, but for our friendships and our lives in general,
Oh yeah. I couldn't agree more.
you know? And the more outward focused we can be, I think there's so much more we get out of that. And we think that if we're going to be outward focused, then what's going to happen to me? And we get all concerned about that. And what's going to happen to you is you're actually going to grow and become a better, stronger human.
Yeah. You don't go anywhere.
No, you're going to be more magnetic.
Hmm. Oh, it's so interesting. So much dating advice and books I've read have so much to say about how people can adjust their approach to dating and their personalities, their
Mhm.
looks, their habits, their jobs even. Like I've heard advice before, go get a better job and then women will like you. It's like, okay, but what I love about entering the world of Happy Bee is that nothing has to change about what you're doing. Like essentially, what is the most attractive thing you can do? You said the word magnetic is exactly right. When you really see and are interested in other people, people are drawn to you. They want to be around you, even if it's not romantic. Like your friendships become deeper, your family relationships become better. And then when you're interacting with other people, you're actually going to find that people find it hard to resist you. They're like, I can't not be around that person because when I'm with them, I get to be who I want to be. Your authenticity unlocks and gives permission to others to be authentic themselves.
Mhm.
And when people get to be around others that let them be authentic, those are relationships that you like gravitate toward and hold on to. So
Yeah.
if you're thinking like, no one seems to like me, it's like, yeah, how interested in you are you actually in other people? Because it's not about getting them to like you. It's about getting them to see that you're actually interested in them.
Yeah.
And then they will reciprocate that. And it's
Absolutely.
powerful.
It's
Powerful.
so powerful, and I wish more people would grasp that it's like you're not going to connect with people if you're not being your authentic self, because your facade is going to connect with another facade. And then what is that? That's two facades that are both not real connecting. And we find this a lot in the trap of, I think you mentioned this in the book. We won't go into it now, but of the nice guy, right? The nice guy who suppresses who they really are deep down. We had an episode all about, we call it It's No More Mr. Nice Guy, because there's a great book
Love
about
that
it.
episode. Yeah,
Oh,
love that episode.
it was,
It's great.
I wanted to have like 5 more hours of that conversation, because I think it's so vital. And I'm like, because I think so many guys are frustrated by like, oh, but I'm so nice and I'm giving and I'm all these things. And it's like, yeah, but you're not yourself. You're the real version of you. You are succumbing to everyone else's desires. You're trying to please everybody else in the process. But then who are you? No one wants to really deeply be with somebody who isn't authentically themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Because someone being, like you just said, someone being authentically themselves gives the other person permission to be authentically themselves. And now you have the grounds of building a great relationship, whether that's a friendship or a romantic relationship. But I think relationships built on grounds that are not real, that you aren't able to feel like you can bring your entire self, that's like you said, shaky ground. It's not a real solid relationship. And it will likely crumble at some point when hard things happen, when maybe you're not in the mood to be a friend that day, or you're going through something, you're struggling, or whatever it may be. It's just it's not going to work if you can't be fully yourself.
It's true. Even if you're able to perhaps trick someone into dating and loving you
Yeah.
through your facade, which happens a lot. I mean, a lot of marriages kick off and they need to
Yep.
be right, and they continue in the world of right. Um, but what happens when that person goes off script or doesn't like agree with you or doesn't follow your lead on something you want to do, like for like finances, children, or like intimacy?
Mm-hmm.
Like what do you do in those situations? How do you handle them? Many marriages fall apart
Mm-hmm.
because the other person isn't doing what they were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who's violating the expectations of the person who has the expectations, the person with the expectations feels justified in terminating the relationship because it's like they're accusing them, saying, hey, you went off script. I hired you to play this part and say these lines, and you're off there ad-libbing on stage. What are you doing? And suddenly the relationship crumbles. And the really destructive part is that neither party feels responsible. It's like, well, they failed, not me. And that's what I think is so pernicious. Like, you think, just to touch on the nice guy thing, and all of this is like, again, this isn't the result of a lack of something within ourselves.
Mhm.
Like, someone didn't give me something and therefore I'm not able to do this. Like, that's again positioning myself as the victim.
Mhm.
The universe didn't make me a good enough person, so I can't be authentic in dating. It's like, no, this is a choice we're making. And that's kind of like maybe mean spirited. It's not meant to be. It's like that when I was the nice guy, I was manipulating
That's
girls.
that's
I'm
exactly
not
what the nice guy is. That's what nice guys don't
manipulation.
understand. It at the
I
end of the day, we're gonna call it what it is. You're manipulative, and you don't realize that. And if
Yep.
you say that to them, they're like, "Oh my God,
Oh,
how?
how dare you?
What? I'm the nicest guy ever." Yeah, and you're fake.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yep. And there's a million permutations of that in across
Millions.
the genders. You've got the nice guy, you've got the jerk, you've got
Mhm.
the damsel, you've got the assertive. I mean, whatever
Mhm.
archetype you want to take on, great. It's just another flavor of manipulation to try to get someone else into a relationship with me in the way that I think it should be.
Yeah.
And that style, of course, comes from our culture. So that's the part that's maybe not as much in our control. But it's like, if you can come to terms with the fact that this is actually, dating isn't working because you actually never intended it to, then
Mm.
it's like, ooh, shoot. And when you get to the core of that, you go, I need to change my intention and my goal in dating. And then it starts to work for you.
Mhm.
And then it starts to be something where you're turning away interest because it's like people want to be around you. And you're like, I have limited time. Please back up. It really shifts the polarity of your social magnet when you can get to this place of authenticity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, one thing I want to leave listeners today is paint the picture for me, right? I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, I see that I was dating very self-centered, very selfish, and I want to change. I don't want to date that way. I see how it's not beneficial. I'm like, okay, what do I do? Paint the picture of what it actually now looks like, because oftentimes we can give people do step 1, 2, and 3, but I also want people to understand, well, what could that look like, right? What's the vision of dating differently?
Yeah. It's a really good question. Can I tell a story to actually bring
Yes.
that up?
No, I love it. Yes.
First, great. And it's from the book, so you'll know this one, but your listeners are unfamiliar with it. So it's actually how a story about how I met my wife and this story of what happened. And it's just to give you an example of what this shift looks like.
Mhm.
So when I started dating my wife, we were dating for probably 2 or 3 months, and it came time for, she was going to go home and visit her family around Christmas time, and I thought it'd be super romantic if I bought a ticket and I surprised her. We could spend the Christmas holiday together. What a cool guy I am, right? And so I buy this ticket and I call her up. I'm like, I'm coming to visit. And she doesn't have the reaction that I'm hoping. She's like, so you shouldn't come. And I'm like, why? And I'm going to come. It's okay. It'll be fine. And she told me not to come. She said, my family's got a schedule for what we're going to be doing and you're not on the schedule. And I thought she was just kind of being resistant. And I thought, well, if I just show up and I'm gallant and I'm awesome, then she's going to love me and it'll be fine. I had no idea my family-in-law, my future family-in-law, was like for real about the schedule. Like, I wasn't on the schedule and nothing's happening. Like, the Pope could try to be on the schedule. If he's not on the schedule, nope, sorry, we're not making room for the Pope. It's crazy. And so I show up there and I spend 4 days alone, like, and seething alone. I'm so pissed that, like, I made this grand romantic gesture. Here I am putting my heart on the line for you, and you're not even willing to spend any amount of time with me. Outside of like 2 hours, she was willing to slip away to go eat some dinner with me.
Mhm.
So nice of her. I walked on the beach alone. I went to Denny's alone. I went to the movie theater alone, watched The Hobbit by myself, and I was like alone the whole time, right? I even have a hoodie to commemorate the loneliness. I call my lonely hoodie. It's my blue Newport Beach hoodie, and it's like horrible. And so there I am completely alone. Well, Sunday rolls around, and her family very graciously invites me to go to their church with them. So I go to church with them, and we sit into the service, and I get up. It ends, and I get up, and I'm heading for the door, and I'm walking alone again. Here I'm alone. And I'm kind of like, I turn around to find out where my wife is. Her name is Liz. And there's Liz in the middle of the kind of the area where all the seats are. And there's this parade of people around Liz. And it's all these people, old people, young people, children. I mean, it doesn't matter. They're all types are around Liz. And they're all hugging her and they're kissing her and they're loving her. And she's just laughing and she's joyful. And she loves these people. And it must have been 100 people had lined up to see Liz. They were so excited to see her. And suddenly, like, time just stopped. And I went, like everything got real sharp, right? And you focus. And I go, I've like, I can't quite describe the feeling. And it's not like this moment in a movie, like a romantic film. It wasn't that I fell in love with her right then. I already liked her. It was like I saw her as a person outside of my story. She had her own world. She was beloved by this community. And like people loved her and she loved them and she was bright and she was beautiful and she was smart. She was happy. But all those things were completely disconnected from my interest in her. It wasn't she was beautiful because I think she's beautiful.
Yeah.
It wasn't she's smart because I think she's smart. It's she's smart on her own. She's beautiful on her own. She's beloved on her own. And suddenly there's this bright, shining kind of pillar of a person. And it's like, oh my gosh, like what a different thing. And so that moment, I think, is when I started to see her as a person. And all my emotional pity party died right there. It was like, I'm not pissed about being alone for 4 days. I'm super excited I got to come to see this moment. And I drove back to the airport and I was like, if I don't marry someone like that, I'm an idiot. And I went home and then we kept dating. And it was like completely different from my other experiences. Other dating experiences were anxious and emotional and like tight. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I feel like I'm in love. And this was like, I'm at peace. I'm fine. Everything's great. I don't worry about the future. I'm just excited to see her the next day. And it became so much easier. And then she reported, she's like, I've never been dated by someone like Sam before. And it wasn't that like I was uniquely attractive or I lacked a lot of things she wanted in a guy. I'm not musical. I'm not a doctor. I don't speak Chinese. She wanted all these things and I wasn't that, but I really saw her, I feel like, and she felt seen and she felt like that was magnetic for her. And so I tell that story because the first step to transitioning to the world of happy is actually seeing people like as people. Because when that happens, everything inside you shifts. Your emotions line up at attention, like ready to support you, and they don't betray you anymore. And it's like your thoughts are there and the helpful thing comes to mind. And it's like everything you've wanted to be as a person is waiting on the other side of caring about other people. And suddenly it's like, boom. And then I say, once you're able to get to that place of seeing others as people more readily, you can practice this outside of romance, like you said. It's like, then we get really curious. We learn what we can, try to break down the assumptions, try to get to clarity and truth with other people. And then the final step and one of the most important things is to be really straightforward with other people. Because we're seeing them and because we have accurate information about them, our own feelings are now in line. And so we get to say how we feel and we mean it. And then the other person gets the benefit of clarity in a relationship, probably for the first time. And it's not like we're going to go out and bare our souls and spill our tea on everybody. It's like, no, it's like, okay, it's just at appropriate moments, we're going to know it's like, hey, I really like you. And I think I want to see you more. What do you think? And then give them the space to answer. And if they answer and they say no, you say, hey, I'm really glad you were honest with me. I'm looking forward to being friends if you want to. I'll see you later. It's not like, oh no, you didn't say yes.
Yeah.
It's a place where, but I think practically speaking, if you can walk those steps and then live in that pattern, right? So consistently looking to see people as people, consistently getting curious, and then being really straightforward in all your relationships, you're going to find yourself building a character that will lead you to this place of dating. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
No, I think it's beautiful. And I think it's a great example of, again, you saw her outside of yourself and outside of your story. Right? Of who this person is. And that really shifts the game. I mean, for everybody. I think if we can start to look at people as less of what I can get out of them, because that's often what we do, right? We talked about that. I really feel like that really shifts the game. So it's like, how are we approaching dating? And I think it's like, if you're out there dating, try this out. Go on a date and literally be like, you know what? I'm going to go on this date and I'm going to be the one asking questions. I'm going to really try and sit and listen for once. I'm not going to try and boast. I'm not going to try and, I got to tell them how amazing I am. I got to get them to like me, because that's how we often come out in dating. Where I got to get them to like me. I got to get them to think I'm interesting. But really see what that does. Ask the questions, get curious, because most people are not like that. And so I'm curious to know if you do that. I want to hear about it. I want you guys to write in, to DM me and tell me, hey, look, I went out there and I did that and it made a huge difference. I'm really curious to hear everyone's experiences, but I think that's so valid and such good advice. Because like we said, there is so much, I'm just going to be honest, trash advice out there about like, I'm going to call it what it is. Sorry. But, about like, become more like this, change how your personality is. Don't be weird. Don't. And yeah, there's some stuff that I'm like, okay, I can understand. There's some things we might need to pull back on that are maybe
Sure. Showering, please, right? Like,
yeah, like, maybe shower, smell decent, not be manipulative but I think again, so much of those things at the core comes back to being confident in yourself.
I
Like
do.
we're going to tell people, oh, go be healthy, go to the gym, go do all this. Those are all masks, right? But I think when you start to feel good about yourself and you're like, no, I love myself. Like I really feel like I'm capable, and a lot of that. Then it's like you want to go to the gym, you want to take care of your body, you want to work harder, you want to have a better career, or you want these things. You start to want more for yourself, right? So a lot of that comes out as a byproduct of looking at yourself and finding more confidence within yourself. So I'm very hopeful. I think this was such a good conversation. I was really looking forward to it. But I thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your wisdom and sharing all your insights that you've gathered over the years, because I think it's really, really, really valuable.
Oh, thanks, B, for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been super awesome. And we'll put all the information on how to get a hold of you if anyone's interested in connecting. We'll also put your website in the show notes, because I think at the end of the book, you do have those great questions that I think are really valuable. So if you don't know where to start with those, kind of get familiar with them. And as you're out, as you're with friends, maybe you're even at a dinner party or you're having friends over, and, start implementing some of this and see what it does. So anyway, Sam, thank you so much. And
Thank you, B.
yeah, we'll see you in the next episode.